Hey there, welcome to episode 182 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, as usual. We are recording this at 2:43 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on Friday, August 21st, 2026. We normally publish new episodes of this audio program on Fridays. Occasionally, they are recorded on Thursday when there's less traffic. Production by street, as usual. Thursday night, sometimes Friday morning, more typical. Sometimes Friday afternoon, here we are. But find new episodes wherever you found this one every Friday. In fact, find all of the old episodes wherever you found this one every day. If you are not, today's title and topic, by the way, demos and launches. We'll get to what that is in a moment. I've started doing the full not the full, but a more detailed backstory of the Cafe Genius notion, how it all started, what we're up to, and so on. So keeping it brief, Cafe with two F's and one E without an accent. Genius. Cafe is spelled as it was for Cafe Centro in San Francisco. It was located in the South Park across the street from what is now the Oracle Ballpark, Pac Bell, AT&T, Oracle. I'm kind of surprised it's not the TikTok ballpark, but anyway. Cafe Centro was where startups started, where startups start. It did not survive long after the pandemic. I think they sort of reopened, but not long. And then unfortunately, they had to move on. So I've long said that Vegas, in its so-called startup scene, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem needs multiple Cafe Centro spots. So we named the effort Half as an homage to Cafe Centro. Genius for the Genius Lunches from the Downtown Project days. I'll describe all of this in slightly more detail in 8 more episodes. So every 10th episode, I think I started this on episode 180. But either way, we'll just cut down on the lead in. Impresarios spelled with 2 S's, less common but still correct a spelling. Impresarios are making things happen. So Cafe Genius Impresarios, people that are making things happen. All of this is pointed towards our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, people who are pursuing their entrepreneurial efforts, people who are being creative, innovative, and they're maybe trying to do it here in Vegas. Good luck. Demos and launches. These are both important things to both entrepreneurs and innovators, and especially to entrepreneurial innovators. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read to you. In fact, it's actually a little bit long. It's longer than normal, but it's two sentences maybe, and some links for this episode. It's just the usual 2 links. So pretty straightforward. Let's begin then on this pretty warm Friday afternoon here in Vegas. If you find yourself in the Greater Vegas area, you tend to know when something on the Strip is happening, or when anything in the fun economy is kicking off. Because, by the way, fun economy is a trademark term held by the UNLV Office of Economic Development on behalf of the what is it called? The Board of Regents. Thank you. Registrars? No. Or when anything in the fun economy is kicking off, because these are given attention. They're given attention, which means they get more attention. This mechanism should be available to our entrepreneurs and innovators. ... Or ellipsis if you prefer. The links, as usual, that's the normal 2, nothing in particular. Otherwise, Cafe Genius homepage, Cafe with 2 F's, CAFFE, Genius, GENIUS.org. We're focused on our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. It's a bottom-up, eventually communities of practice oriented, what do they call those? Like expert group or something? The Genius Roundtable, cohort 2, someday. I don't even know if we'll get it done or get it started this year, not get it done. It would be an ongoing effort anyway. The second cohort should last. There should be no end terminus for the second cohort, but we'll see. That would be decided by those seated at the round table. The homepage will have more information one of these days. Right now, it's Definitely links to this audio program. The older Cafe Genius homepage had much more information about our pitch workout room and our other pitch events, pitch mingle, pitch, what else? There was another one. Pitch workout, pitch mingle. There was another one. Oh, well, also all the rules, the different scenarios for practicing. So we got to figure out how to make that all happen again. The pitch workout room was a good idea, and we got to bring that back. That's part of the origin story of Cafe Genius, which we will retell, or you can hear it. Actually, if you pick any episode from, before 180 or somewhere back there, or you should listen to them all. You'll hear much more of, if not the complete backstory at the beginning of each episode, which was a bit much. That's me, the host profile page linking everything. If I have guests again someday, we had guests in our first several episodes, and you want to be able to link to whatever they're working on. So to differentiate between whatever I'm linking to, whatever is topical for the subject at hand, and then whatever the guest or guests might be working on or want to share. There you go. So my profile page linking everything. I've had the buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile set up since March of 2021. It's been around for a while. You do not have to spend any money there. I use it as a sort of a free-form link tree. There are links to all of my audio programs, various projects. There are some affiliate links. If you want to, I actually use everything that's on there, including some of my favorite coffee beans. There's some biographical information. Also be aware that every Monday, we publish the Buy Me an Update audio program. It was originally published exclusively on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts, but there was no partnership or affiliation in any way with Buy Me a Coffee. I just figured, I have this page forever. Why not put it to use and have something that's found there? And then I quickly discovered that people do not go to buymeacoffee.com at all to listen to podcasts. So they don't do RSS feeds and all this. So 2 hours after it's published, Buy Me an Update is published at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts. It is then published in all the other usual places. So you can still, it's 5 minutes. Get on the treadmill. You're done in 5 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Could be less than 5 minutes too. No additional links for today. So let's get started. What are demos and launches? First of all, you are probably familiar with the notion of a grand opening for a restaurant. I hope you are. Or a retail establishment like a bookstore or clothing store. A launch is a similar idea, if not the very same, where a business of a product or where a business or a product are coming out into the world. So you can launch an entire business or the business can launch a new product. I could have a grand opening of a coffee shop and later launch a new iced beverage, or I could launch a new website. You get the idea. A demo is, let me get some water. Pardon me. A demo is literally a demonstration. That's what it's short for. Most of the time, a demo is something that you might offer before the launch to whet the appetites, perhaps. Generate some buzz, gauge the level of interest, maybe get some feedback. And sometimes there might even be some end user interaction within or with the thing demonstrated. Sometimes this could lead to a co-creation effort. That would be nice. A demo for the target audience, the intended customers, people who might get it, is often the goal, but there may just be a general audience curious to see what goes on. This you will find at, I guess Tech Alley has demo something, demo time, demo whatever. So they have one of the time slots on the third Saturday of each month to just get up and demo things. I don't know that those are announced ahead of time. It could be anything. I've done it. I've done a demo time there twice, I think, a long time ago. Because it's not a audience that has come prepared to view a demo in a sort of, I'm not going to say critical mindset, but they already know what they're about to see, or they have some ideas, right? So they have come to see demonstrations of new products, services, etc. This is more of a tire kicker sort of, hey, can I ask the same question I asked everybody else, that kind of thing. So I found essentially zero value in it, but depends. Your mileage may vary. To be honest, we should have more demo time in Vegas. Demos are usually a good time. a milestone of sorts for the person giving the demo, hopefully, an opportunity to get some feedback and get a feel for excitement, interest, and sometimes potential deals and whatnot. Someone might come up later and say, do you need some more funding? Can I get involved in this, with this? Can I sell the product when it launches? It could be anything. Who knows? Launches are a little bit different. You still may get funding offers at a launch. They may make a huge difference in the longer term prospects of the product or service, or even of the company itself, depending on how the launch is received, or maybe whether enough people are even aware of the launch. Hint, if you launch a product and nobody knows, did it even launch? That's a good question, isn't it? I will move on, but ponder that, if you will. Hang on. I pause every once in a while for whatever reason, and it sounds like a cut sometimes when I truncate the silence and I normalize the amplitude and all this. So it sounds like a cut, but I literally pause and unpause, and it might sound like I've chopped something out. Not the case, except I did pause. So whatever was happening, you didn't get to hear it, which I don't know if you can figure this out. Probably. That's why I pause like that. The usual ways, if you're going to demo your product or service, depending on the size of your effort, like if you're just a solo entrepreneur, that's one thing. Or maybe you have 1,000 people working with you, more or less, because maybe you're part of a big company or even part of a much larger company, and you just have a department or a group of 1,000 people. It could be anything. You may need to find a venue and an audience, and it may be helpful if there is a venue where yours and other demos will be witnessed by an interested and interesting cadre of people, not people who've just shown up and said, oh, I'm not doing anything right now. I might as well go see demos. And you can get a mix. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. If the venue can get the word out and attract a crowd, that is usually really helpful. If the crowd is showing up, I'll give you an example. I used to watch this guy who had a comedy hour or so in downtown Sunnyvale, California, where I used to live. He had it in an Irish pub. But here's the thing. Most of the people there did not go to that place to see a comedy show, stand-up, open mic style. They went to hang out in a pub and watch sports or chat, enjoy their evening. So if you have people coming to a place and then you present them with something that is not quite what they were expecting, it doesn't always go as you'd hope. There are a variety of options here, some good, some great, and some not as much, as far as venues and crowds and all that stuff. So it can be tricky. A lot goes to the way it is presented to the audience, the potential audience, setting expectations. A product launch, with few exceptions, depends immensely on getting the word out so that there is some critical mass of people aware of the big event. The launch doesn't actually have to, like a demo is often really good if there are people. You get interaction, you get reaction, you get response. A launch might be, at scale. You may not be in a room when you launch something. You may just launch it. It may just become available. Not everybody is Steve Jobs. They may not need to travel anywhere, especially if it's totally online. They may not even need to take any particular action, such as signing up or purchasing something. Or maybe they could or should sign up for a mailing list, perhaps. Call to action. At any rate, that people know your product or service has launched and is now available is essential, not only for that potential user or customer to take a look, but also to reach some level of virality. Hopefully when someone says, oh, Dan launched that new podcast, I'm not going to tell anyone. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I think it does. But, oh, the new restaurant is open. I'm going to keep it a secret and never tell anyone ever. That doesn't happen as much. But in particular, restaurants here in Vegas get a lot of attention. So maybe if you're going to launch a new product, you should partner with a new restaurant that's opening. Grand opening restaurant plus a new podcast is launching. Come by and try both. Generally speaking, the channels to reach people become really, really important here. More so for the launch than for the demo, perhaps, but maybe both about the same, really, when you get right down to it. But in the general case, the more people who know about what is coming soon what it could mean to them, and who else they should tell about this big news, the better for you and your undertaking, whatever it is. Word of mouth, event promotion, and what we could call the usual ways for gatherings at a venue, vertical outlets which report on related news and happenings in your space. If you're doing a real estate software demo of some sort, then real estate is a big thing here in Vegas. There are real estate oriented news outlets. Hopefully they would mention to your target audience. Then we have general news outlets, social media, and so-called influencers. You get the idea. There's a lot of ways. The more the reach, the better the outcome might be according to your success metrics. I really can't stress this enough. If you can reach people who would be proactively interested in your demonstration, right? The demo of the demo crowd, the demographics. So it'd be really helpful, just in my experience. I mean, your mileage may vary too about this, but if you can draw a crowd that's particularly interested in what you are talking about or what you're about to demonstrate, I think everybody wins. But sometimes people are just curious. That's not a bad thing. The problem for myself, my LinkedIn time is really close to zero now. You are probably over hearing about LinkedIn. I know I'm sort of sick of talking about it and even thinking about it. Certainly tired of depending on it for anything. You might even be growing weary of my comments regarding our local media outlets, not really knowing how to cover what and how to cover. What to cover and how? What to cover and how. Sorry for the live edit, but you spot something to change. What to cover and how regarding what is happening in the Greater Vegas area with regard to entrepreneurialism and innovation, maybe specific areas like technology and biomedical research and other such focal areas, and the influencer bunch, which is substantially, like almost frustratingly focused on tourists and the fun economy, trademarked, as I hope you know by now, because I reminded you at the top of the show, by the UNLV Office of Economic Development on behalf of the Board of Regents, or whatever the specific details are. I mention this all the time because I'm kind of making fun of them. Good for them for having the fun economy trademark. February of last year. It's so rare that local content creators will delve into the inner workings of a particular startup or related activities, maybe these demo opportunities and product launches and so on. It'd be nice if they did do that every once in a while or mentioned things. They don't. There is one local content creator, Jason, recording a show at Tech Alley, but there is a problem there by extension due to the limited audience. The limited audience there at the actual recording, that's one thing. And then the limited number of people who actually consume the show. Now, I often say this, it's not always a numbers game. Sometimes if you only have 10 people, but it's the right 10 people, then you only need 10 people to watch your video or listen to your podcast or whatever. But on the other hand, what if you don't have the right 10 people, but you do have 10,000 people listening or watching, right? So getting the word out is always important. Trying to get the word out is even more important. Are you listening to this program right now? Congratulations, you're one of the big 10, I guess. Awareness is a real hurdle here in Greater Vegas for launches, demos, and other media efforts in general. So we need to do some work there, plain and simple. There's another facet of this that will lead us back to the FACE concept. So hang on, if you have never heard what that is, stay tuned for a few more minutes. FACE, F-A-C-E. Basically, most news coverage here leans all the way into Ben Horowitz, Dean Cain, TensorWave, and then, of course, professional sports and other developments under the fun economy umbrella. Everyone will know by the end of the day today on Friday that Bally's is having difficulty moving forward with the baseball stadium plan. They tore down the Tropicana, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're building. Maybe we're not. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the A's, the Athletics, the baseball team, not completing their commitment to move to Vegas, but we'll see. Where am I? Okay, you may find the odd human interest story now and then. Wait, whoops, I skipped a whole sentence. Maybe due to a lifetime of coverage on bright and shiny lights, but getting coverage really has to have some celebrity or money or both connected, or there is something of a shoulder shrug in general. So if I say, I've done this, so this is the voice of experience. Hey, we're doing the NASA Space Apps Challenge for Innovate for Vegas Foundation. We're facilitating this. If the Greater Vegas area really is a global innovation hub, and this is a global hackathon in space and related technologies available for anyone of any age, but really aimed at students, shouldn't we talk about it? And our papers of record, I'll just say that, said, maybe when is it? And I said, well, it's in October, but we need to talk about it now so that people have any idea that it's happening and they might participate. They said, yeah, more likely we could talk about it on the day of. Totally useless. And then they didn't care anyway, so that never even happened. Yeah, we got to address that. And then if you're only going to cover things that everybody already knows about, I mentioned Ben Horowitz. We want to talk about flock cameras and Cybertrucks. Dean Cain. We want Hollywood 2.0. We have we only have Dean Cain left. Marky Mark has departed with his family, and is there anybody else? They just kept mentioning Mark Wahlberg, and how happy he was here in Vegas, and Dean Cain, because they both moved to Vegas. Okay. And then, of course, TensorWave. TensorWave gets a mention every day, if possible. We'll find out how the bubble bursting will impact that. But that's the sort of thing that gets coverage here. We really should be paying attention at the lower levels, like just getting started. But TensorWave's a startup. They only started, whatever, okay. $350 million in funding. They're not really a startup anymore. We should be talking and thinking and be more aware of the 1 or 2 person or 4 person startup that's happening, trying something new, trying to be innovative. And they're not doing a self-driving vehicle. Congratulations. So you may find the odd human interest story now and then on one of the local news stations, maybe one of the local indie online news outlets. I like the Nevada Current and the Nevada Independent. They actually sort of mention this stuff a little bit more now and then. Rarely in our statutory newspapers. These are our statutory papers of record. They're listed in the NRS, so good for them, I guess. But those are little bonus items, perhaps, when people or things or efforts get mentioned. If you want to know what is going on, there must be better ways to find out here in our global innovation hub, right? Right? Yeah. Then we can look at national efforts, Right to Start and America the Entrepreneurial. I could link to those, but I need to figure out what's really going on with these things so I'll probably talk about that more in the near future. And of course, the corresponding state and local efforts driven by state and local government, designed to not only connect entrepreneurs and innovators with some resources, which may be helpful getting closer to their goals, but also helping to get the word out, shining some light, if you will, on various efforts ongoing. So they should sort of do what the local press cannot or is unwilling to do. Will that actually happen? I haven't placed any wagers. I don't know if I will. I don't know that creating organizations and naming them for larger efforts is a panacea for what ails us. But I do have my doubts that what is being assembled here will be sufficient to accomplish what I believe some are aiming for. So you know what I'm saying, right? Maybe I'm kind of soft wagering. The don't pass line. I'll leave a hint here for a future episode. A group of entrepreneurs and innovators really needs to be given the keys rather than being steered by government agencies and adjacent organizations. Like, we could give you a ride or you can drive yourself, but we'll help you out with a loaner vehicle. But we're not going to tell you how to get there. We're not going to, entrepreneurs and innovators, by their nature, if they have questions, they will ask. They're trying to solve a problem. They're not trying to be told what to do. I really hope they aren't waiting to be told what to do. We will be watching, definitely. So Nevada, the Nevada Right to Start legislation that was passed in 2023, I think it was. So the pieces are there. Are those the pieces we need? That's the question. And again, I have my doubts. Okay, FACE, the Focused Attention Calendars for Everyone, FACE, was something I designed 2 years ago. Maybe it was 3. The idea is to provide consistent ways of alerting people to what is happening as a culture of innovation continues to be cultivated here in our greater Vegas area. To inform people of the known unknowns. That is, the things they don't know about, but that are known. They're not mysteries, but it's just that the information never gets out. So the known unknowns, if you like. If you try to find out information about Startup Week Las Vegas, or maybe it's Las Vegas Startup Week, maybe it's in September, maybe it's in February of 2027, maybe both. I don't know. And who will know to look for those things? Last year, none of this, whether it was 1 or 2, I don't know what they're doing with the 2 different dates for things. But last year there was 0 news coverage. So I did not attend. It's my understanding that it was the same couple of hundred people that tend to show. I call it the 300 for the graphic novel. There's about 300 regulars that you see a lot. There may have been as many as 500 people, including remote signups. It's not clear to me that they actually attended. I mean, I signed up and I didn't attend, so who knows? Interesting times. This is just one example, and this will receive a little, if any, mainstream news coverage. And the fact that that is true is problematic and par for the course here in Greater Vegas. Will Startup NV get the press to have another look since they have taken over stewardship of the week? I'm shrugging, as is everyone else. I attempted to describe this in terms, we're back to FACE now, in terms of holidays and other specific dates on calendars, but I think the easier way aligns with restaurant launches as one great example. And honestly, I may have switched these, but I see them all the time. Most periodicals focused on food and restaurants, particularly in the greater Vegas area, because we have a lot of restaurants, and restaurants want to open and close. That's the nature of the business. By the way, startups are the same sort of rate of 5-year timeline and how many get through that and all that. So these periodicals will announce closures, usually at the end of the month, each month, and new spots opening around the beginning of each month. I may have switched those, but I think that's probably right. Or maybe some people switch the order in general. But it's usually, the place is closing. Like if it's the 3rd week or towards the end of the month, they might say they're closing soon, or they might say, oh, they already closed last week. Right. So I know that they don't spend a special article on most of the times when restaurants close. They gang them up, and it's usually at the end of the month, I think. And then new grand openings, new launches of new restaurants, usually at the beginning of the month. A little bit of good news, bad news, good news. So the Eater website, I think it's lasvegas.eater.com. So there's a Las Vegas section. We can see this and the split month over month, and that's where I see where, I can't believe that one place is closing, and there's another good place that's opening a second location, that kind of stuff. So you kind of get hit with bad news and good news. I think that's the order. I basically know where that news can be found. So if I'm really curious, I can go to the website and I can check out what opened last month. So I'm aware of it. I don't need to know what's opening this week or today and when they make their announcements, because they are consistent about it. And even now, even though I don't remember which is which, I do know that they do take place, and I know where to go to find this information. That is 80% right there. So I basically know where that news can be found if I'm really curious. Anyone who wants to refer to those also basically knows where to look. So they have a starting point every month. FACE, then, remember, focused attention calendars for everyone. So not focused on real estate agents or people in the startup community. Everyone makes each week in a 4-week cycle oriented towards one of 4 topics: create, learn, build, and launch. No, you do not need to launch during launch week. As with restaurants, launch week is a whole week focused on launches, which we have already discussed. If there is a FACE portal, by the way, learn when something closes, that is a learning experience. So we can still talk about learning. Closures of businesses. And it doesn't have to be a restaurant, right? So Eater is focusing on restaurants, food. So anything, especially a small business, falls into these categories. So the main focus all week on launches. Anyone could also look for create, learn, and build those weeks and the information around them at any time. Just like I can look for restaurants that opened or closed last month. But the focus and attention would be on launch all week. This means any news outlet, journalist, human interest reporter, content creator, influencer, anyone could take one look each week at the rundown and see what is going on and where. It could be that something launched last week, although ideally, with a little bit of momentum, people would know better and they would say, oh, how to make sure I get an announcement into the launch week news, the promotion of this, so that during launch week, people will say, oh, okay, so Dan's podcast is launching in 14 days. But he mentioned it during launch week because that's where I go to figure out what new is happening. Piece of cake. And again, they could all check out the other weekly updates anytime. So, hey, while I'm here, let me check out what was going on in the Create Week from 3 weeks ago. I initially ordered them Create, Learn, Build, Launch because no reason. No, I aligned them with other events that were happening on the calendar each month. But I think it actually makes it might be interesting to revisit that ordering and see what would make the most sense. But I think as long as you're consistent, I don't know that the actual week would matter quite as much as the consistency. The focus attention is on the 4-week cycle. Get it? See? So our weeks. This is something I don't think gets enough attention. So I have mentioned the R weeks before in the context of the entire episode describing the face idea. And I'm going to do another one of those when we tune some things. When I first talked about the face concept, I had a slide deck presentation and I had the general idea. And most of the time was focused, when I was talking about this, was focused on the fact that no, you do not need to launch during launch week. This is an attention calendar. It is not an event schedule. Does that make sense? So on. Now, we point attention in the attention calendar. Hey, this week we're talking about launches. And we say the launch for Dan's podcast is happening on September 10th, right? Sometime in the future from now. Oh, but still that confused people. And I tried all manner of explaining it. So I think the end of the day, a functioning example will work out a lot better. So when we get there, we'll talk about this again. But every quarter, this is magic. This is how calendars work. A 4-week cycle in a standard year, 12 months, 4 weeks per 48 weeks. But wait, a 1 year has 52 weeks. Every quarter on our calendars, there is a bonus week that does not align with the 4-week cycle. So every 3 cycles, there's a week. What are we going to do during that week? This I referred to as the R weeks for rest, recovery, recuperation, relaxation. You get the idea. That week would focus on none of the other things. Maybe more on movies, upcoming concerts, foodie events, pool events in the summer, skiing and snowboarding in the winter perhaps, whatever it might be. Like every day, every week, doesn't have to be a pitch, talking about your startup, going to a startup gathering, going to a meetup to talk about funding, right? That's all that I was hearing about for a while. And I said, nobody ever talks about just not doing those things. And I'm being hyperbolic. People do talk about those things, but not enough. Something I noted in the Downtown Project days was a similar weekly focus cycle. And I need to dig up what that was from the archives of the downtown project or the people that were downtown for more detailed comparison with face. I think it had to do with the Catalyst stuff that was going on, but I just remember there was always a weekly, a monthly, but a week of something and then another week of something else. In the information awareness environment we have in Greater Vegas, the approach makes a lot of sense. You have to develop a habit. As I would often tell people, do you know when First Friday is? Yeah. How? Because it's right in the name and it's always the same time of each month, the first Friday. There you go. But attention to human factors may have been limited for whatever reason. So human factors being taking a break, not talking about or focusing so much on startups every single day, etc. And to be honest, the Downtown Project did have fun, sort of part of the overall endeavor, but maybe not enough. I'm not sure. There were some unhappy people that didn't make it out so well. So that's always something to take a look at. Personally, I was not quite close enough to the life in the Downtown Project. I was a spectator. I just came to the show a lot. But there were more people than should have been who made their decisions to exit early, as I was just intimating, leaving sadness and confusion behind. And that's something to take a look at. You know what I'm saying, so we don't need to go into those details here, but especially since I don't have much detail about those things. It's the sort of stuff that you hear about, but you don't really know unless you know. So I will say that I think it's too easy to treat free lunches as a human interest element at a tech scene meetup. I prefer to think of this as a recurring focal area worthy of attention all the time in a variety of forms. So yeah, it boggles the mind that there isn't some sort of, hey, guess what? We're going to do movie night. We've bought out an IMAX theater and we're all going to see the Odyssey if you want, or whatever, right? Sponsored by, I don't know if it's Cox Business anymore, Spectrum Business. Sponsored by, or hey, subsidized tickets, $2 movie tickets. We have the whole theater, the midnight movies, which should make a comeback for the summer. So or hey, we're going to Spring Mountain, the Spring Mountain Preserve. So we have all day, we have a group ticket buy. These are the sorts of things that could happen if there was a startup community in Vegas. I think that word is overused, and this is one of the reasons I think it's overused, because those things are not thought of. I think that's a problem. And now the Downtown Project did have Turntable Health and some other efforts to try to, but I don't know. That's another discussion. So the R week notion fits nicely into the face concept with those bonus weeks. So we don't have to make every single week about those sorts of things. We can take a whole week every 3 months. By the way, you don't necessarily need to relax and recuperate during the R week, just like the other weeks. We focus on that, but you can take a break next week if you want. So, but it just makes mentions and paying attention to those things the first priority every 3 months. That's more than we're getting now, I think. Sure, knowing about an upcoming grand opening or product launch is fun and exciting, but a little bit more focus on what it takes to make these things actually happen would be interesting, and to give people who are focused on those things 24/7 some time to chill a little bit, relax, step back, not talk about their startup for a day or two. And again, it doesn't have to be during our week, but during our week, we would remind people that that is the thing. We're not talking about startups this week. You can think about them all you want, but we are telling people where to go enjoy themselves and take a step back and relax. To get across the finish line, it takes that effort, and sometimes you have to take a break. Or maybe just to remain in motion along the path. It does pay off sometimes to put the work down, go see a movie, go have some friends and dinner in the same place, whatever. I was going to refer to this as staying in the race, but must everything be a race? It's a journey along a path. If you're in a race, it's that much more difficult. So demos and launches. You almost forgot we were talking about that. Startup Week Las Vegas, or maybe it's Las Vegas Startup Week. I don't even know. Is that one thing, or maybe there's two things? And then Global Entrepreneurship Week. Various opportunities now and then to practice pitching, production by street. So practice pitching and to tell your peers and fellow Vegas denizens what you are working on, and then when it will be ready, and then to make changes and launches at these and more are opportunities to do the demos, do the launches, see what happens, right? So there are these things. It's not a total desert wasteland of nothingness, but we need that cultural component. In a place like Silicon Valley, where I spent many years in the 90s without the benefit of LinkedIn and various other platforms, I've mentioned this before, we were reading about startups and businesses and the happenings in the eventual epicenter of breaking things on the front page of print newspapers, right? Listening on the radio, watching on DirecTV or cable, maybe Tech TV, the now late John C. Dvorak talking about the latest and greatest, reading physical magazines, PC Week, Mac Week, the list goes on. So this was back in the early 90s. I landed in Silicon Valley in 1993. So without the benefit of LinkedIn, which launched in 2003, various other platforms, there wasn't even a Facebook in 1993, finding out where demos and meetups were was mostly through osmosis. Local news outlets and the odd website now and then as those were emerging. But you'd basically hear about things. We used to do a Thursday gathering in Palo Alto at the Blue Chalk. That was not in 1983. That was much later. But yeah, there were always places to go after work. Do you want to go hang out here? Do you want to go, hey, we're meeting up with some other people from this other company, et cetera, et cetera. In Greater Vegas, with so many of these channels established and so much hope around being the epicenter of epicenters of innovation and tech and startups and gaming and advanced manufacturing and fintech and all the rest. Well, we should be tripping over opportunities, and there should be zero people we run into on the street unaware of these various shiny things. I've talked about this in the context of cultivating a culture of innovation here. People know that Vegas is a place where you can gamble, and now there's professional sports. Nobody has any idea about all these other shiny possibilities. Why? Or why not? In fact, there is some work to do here. Perhaps you might agree that it is actually not so easy to do these things, and certainly not so easy to find out what is happening from on high. Like, you shouldn't have to wait for Startup NV to tell you when to pursue gatherings of people doing startups. There should be a monthly day. We did pitch workout room at night one time, and we didn't have the 1 hour constraint. The schedule of Tech Alley, for example, is interesting, but not sustainable for a particular meetup. In other words, that should be a launch point for meetups, new meetups. But something like the pitch workout room did much better when we had a 3 hour window or something in the evening, when people could try out different ideas in different ways and get much more feedback than 5 minutes. So yeah, those meetups in that format that's available should be considered the starting point, not the thing that you stick with for 4 or 5 years. That's not how startups and entrepreneurialism and innovation work. Yeah. In fact, there is some work to do here, as I was saying. Perhaps you might agree, and this is actually not so easy to do these things. It's certainly not so easy to find out what is happening from on high, and that's where we left it. I am in danger of lamenting our local media outlets and the problems with LinkedIn. So let me snap out of this and suggest that we need to do better about sharing and getting the word out as individuals, as we might tell others about anything we find interesting. Discovery is still the name of the game. And while one might imagine that someone else could do this for us, if you aren't wondering by now if this is actually true, then we may have to recreate some episodes of this program with more dire sentiment spread across them. I've been talking about this before a lot. Did someone spray G23 Paxilon hydrochloride into the air around here? If you saw Serenity and or Firefly, then you have some idea what that is. They could not have added it to the water supply, though. There isn't enough of one now. And by the way, there should be more demos about water here in our desert. You're going to continue to read how, we got it covered, we're fine, and that's probably true. But at the same time, today, as I'm recording this, August 21st, I literally just read an article about this, that the final water allotment, what's the word? Has been announced. So Nevada will receive 17% less water from the Colorado River. The Southern Nevada region is known for water conservation research and water recovery and recycling. We usually have 100,000 acre feet. I think it's acre feet. That's the usual unit. I don't think it's gallons. That's too little of margin because of the recycling effort. So any water that can get back into the lake goes back into the lake, and then we draw on that water again. So it's recycled. So the processing, the filtration, the treatment, everything has been an ongoing research and implementation process for 2 decades more, right? So there's not quite panic, but the general population should know that how come the Bellagio gets to have the fountains if we have a water shortage? That's a question based on ignorance, and ignorance is something we can actually solve. We can cure that by making more information available. And demos and launches of new things regarding water might be a part of our near-term cultural modernization efforts, our cultural awakenings in the ways of innovation and entrepreneurialism with regard to making this region function and function well, or continue to function well in the face of these changes. So we're seeing the economy being diversified, but that should be something considered in conjunction with what do we do about the next 2 years to be sure of our water resource availability. So there's an entire system here, and I'm going to conjecture that if more people knew what was happening, where to go to find out, and had more, I'll say demos, but demonstrations, but let's say more presentations and knowledge sharing, information awareness. And this is part of an overwhelming infrastructure shift that I think is a long time coming. So knowing that there are demos, knowing that a product is launching, knowing that we're going to know how this water allotment change adjustment, down adjustment is going to impact us over the next 2 years. What's going to happen with snow melt? How come we have all this water in a water fountain that we can, these are the sorts of, by the way, Lake Tahoe contains an estimated 1 trillion gallons of water or something insane like that. So it'd be interesting to know how all of this works. And the Southern Nevada Water Authority, not the water district. The water district is also important. They're more concerned with getting you water and billing you for it. The water authority is concerned with the math, the modeling, the projections, all that. So knowing more from them about what's happening, just as a matter of course, would be interesting. And this all flows back to awareness and connecting people to what's happening, on a regular basis. Right? That's how you know things are moving, that there's something happening, is because you hear about it and you know where to look frequently. Like, oh, I guess no restaurants opened this week or this month or this year. Why do you say that? Well, because I haven't seen anything on my Twitter feed. Yeah, but there's an entire collection of periodicals that cover this information every month, and you can check on them whenever you want. People just have to know these things, and you have to sometimes put it in front of their face. So, or wherever they need it to be placed. So that's the deal there. So yeah, demos and launches are just part of this overarching awareness, adaptation we need to think about. Oh, sorry, I had to pause. My earbuds. My earbuds fell out, and one was about to do it again. That's where I'll leave it this week, though. Luckily, online demos can be published online for people to try out and to try out and about with pre-launch betas and whatnot. So I'm talking like web application sorts of things. Not everything is digital. Not everything is code. Not everything is a website. But, it is what it is. And by the way, these are still a challenge to announce with any reach here in our Greater Vegas audience, or a reach to our Greater Vegas audience. Getting the word out here is tricky. And I have noticed that people do not tend to re-share in that context. Word of mouth, right? Except in the digital form. I will tell you, I don't want to talk about food trucks today, but I'll simply say that back in the Twitter days of food trucks, certainly before Twitter, when people would just know where food trucks were, how do you find out? Well, because I asked my friend, where are they? Oh, you going to a food truck for lunch? Where are they? Where do I find them? So people would tell each other about things because they're excited about it. I don't know if that still happens. While there may be a sense of that someone is going to tell you what to do and how to do it in this regard and when, I will not hold my breath, and I would hope you won't either. Spend that air doing it, not waiting for it. And by that, I mean your startup, your innovation, your endeavors of whatever kind they are, but also talking about it, sharing it with people, telling people about other people's startups. The world is much more interesting when, you hear all these reach back and pull someone else up, or if you don't help someone, then you're part of the problem. There's all sorts of memes about this. Bottom line, though, if you tell two friends about someone else's startup, someone else might do that for you. That's how the ball gets started rolling, and it's up the hill at this point. But eventually we'll get to the top of the hill, and then it'll be downhill. We need some activation energy. And that's what enzymes are for. And let's be the enzymes. You look up activation energy on your own if you like. On that note, I will wish you all the best. I hope your startup and entrepreneurial endeavors and your innovation pursuits are all moving in the right direction, wherever that might be. Thanks for listening. As always, consider whether you'd like to be a guest on this program at some point. We got to get that back so we have some interesting conversations going on. That's part of the deal. By the way, excuse me, if you were around for the Downtown Project days, you may remember the Downtown Podcast. That was a great example of what could be accomplished here when you don't wait for other media to take action. You say, oh, let's just have, we have access to the same media everyone else does at this point. If there's anything that should be empowering about that, it's the ability to create content that is not about which restaurant, hey, there's an all-you-can-eat place here. There's another one. Oh, let's rank them. Those are fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but the same type of effort, the same type of time could be spent going and talking to people launching startups, or what are you up to? What are you doing? I'm not with the local newspaper. I'm with the program known as Cafe Genius or whatever, right? So anyone can do it. There's nobody preventing anyone from getting out and saying, let me learn more about the people that are making all this stuff happen. And then we might see some faces other than the usuals who make the rounds. If I contacted so-and-so and said, hey, we're doing the Smarter Smart City Challenge in January. Oh, are you with LVGEA or LVCVA, or are you working for staff in the economic development? No, I'm just a person. Hello? Hello? Yeah. So we can get over that. That's why most of the things that I talk about are regarding a bottom-up effort. So making the sorts of things happen that I'm describing in these various episodes more recently, it's about people doing it and not just waiting for someone at a government organization. I'm sure Nevada, the entrepreneurial, is going to be wonderful, but don't wait for that. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I will step off the soapbox for another weekend. I hope you enjoy yours. Whenever you're listening to this, there's a weekend in your future. I'm sure of it. Take care, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.